What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Release Valve. I am your host, Sean Hanlon, and I am blessed and privileged to have another guest here today. He is an alchemist, martial artist, holistic lifestyle, and transformational coach with over 20 years' experience studying esoteric practices such as meditation, energy healing, and emotional self management. It is my honor to introduce Mr. Warren Williams to the show. Welcome to The Release Valve, Mr. Williams.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the great introduction. I'm so always honored to be here. And obviously, we spoke just off the air and, I love the message and what you're trying to do in the world. And I'd love to contribute. So, yeah.
I love that. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. It's definitely something I'm passionate about, and I appreciate you coming on here. Anytime I can get somebody to share space with, pun intended, release with, it definitely helps feed my soul. So I'm excited about this.
Mm.
One of the first things I wanted to ask you, one of the things that stood out to me, being somewhat of a martial artist myself, or at the very least a combat sports enthusiast,
Cool.
tell me about your martial arts journey and how that got started with you.
Well, it's interesting. I actually got into martial arts through comics, interestingly enough. Yeah, through comics. So,
I
I
love
I
that.
was always attracted to these larger than life characters, and humans, we always gravitate to something beyond us to lead us. And this is one of the
Mm,
symbolic things about it's just like the Matrix film. It's one of these things we see something within that inspires us for growth. And so
mm,
I saw these characters that were human, but yet doing superhuman things, and I could connect to that. And in my childhood, I wasn't really into partying and raving, and I just didn't do any of that stuff. I just dedicated myself to martial arts, which I started from like 7 years old. And I was inspired by those
wow.
comics. Yeah, that kind of made me want to get into finding ways to perfect this human vessel. And that was the trigger,
Mm,
seeing these people that could do these superhuman feats and wondering if humans could actually do that. And obviously, as you know, in the journey in martial arts, you kind of realize yeah, there are things that you just didn't think you could do that your senseis or instructors get you to do, and then you think, okay, what else can I do? And the
mm.
path to perfection is always about growth. You know.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I was a huge Ninja Turtle fan as a
Oh
kid.
my gosh.
They were. Oh man, that was I wanted to be a Ninja Turtle when I was a kid. So yeah, the same thing, seeing the things that they were able to do. Well, what can I do something like that? So I was always practicing kicks and stuff like that as a kid, but I didn't actually get into martial arts until I was a bit older. I want to say I was maybe 16 or 17. I took my first boxing class, and then when I was about 19, I got into kickboxing a little bit. And I remember seeing these guys rolling around on the mats to the side, and it looked like wrestling, but it wasn't wrestling. They were doing these weird moves on each other, and what is going on over here? Come to find out, it was jujitsu.
Yeah.
So this is about 20 years ago, and ever since then, I've just been fascinated by all different type of martial arts. I was a huge Bruce Lee
Yeah.
fan growing up, because of my dad and all those movies and stuff like that. Same thing. You start seeing the amazing things that these guys are able to do with their bodies, and I know it's just movies, but it was still something that I took inspiration from. I was inspired to do more. I wanted to be able to do the things that they did, be able to respond the ways that they responded. You see them getting into scuffles with multiple people. I want to be able to handle myself that way too.
Yeah.
And then, as you start actually learning new things, and it's not like how it is in the movies, but you're learning the discipline, you're learning the self control, you're learning the different moves, and you view it a different way. Then it became an art form. Then
Yeah.
it's something that's just beautiful, a beautiful way to be able to express yourself in all the different, obviously mixed martial arts is such a huge thing nowadays.
Mm.
And I love it because I feel like that's the purest form of being able to express yourself in that way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love it. Comics, that's huge. I love it because sometimes when you're a kid, it's such the simple things that you're attracted to. But if you can stay with that and grow with that,
Yeah.
it becomes such an essential part of your being, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, just touching on to what you said, self mastery. That is, the most
Mm,
important thing for me. It's self mastery, and martial arts is one form of self mastery. Even if you look at breakdancing as an example, the things they can do today versus what they could do 10 years ago, they're always pushing the envelope.
Right.
And in pushing the envelope forces growth. And, this saying, the sky is the limit, that's not really true because it keeps breaking. It's like even Roger Bannister with the 4 minute mile. And for those who don't know the story, this famous story of the 4 minute mile where scientists and doctors said it's medically, physiologically impossible to do that. And they surmised that if somebody could force themselves to work at that high intensity, their heart would give out. And this is what they said. No human could do it. And yet he did it. Roger did it. He did it. And when he did it, I think something like 40 people broke the 4 minute mile within the same year that he did it because he showed what was possible.
Wow.
Yeah. And so martial arts is the ultimate expression of, as you said, an expression of self mastery. And that's what attracted me to it because, for me, life is movement and movement is life. What happens to a tree when it stops growing? It dies. When you look at fish, they constantly swim, they're constantly moving. So martial arts, because there's no limitation in what direction you can move in from a functional point of view, it is you know, the highest level of movement. Because even if you did weight training, or powerlifting. Powerlifting itself is in one plane of movement. It's called the sagittal plane, which is front to back, forwards and backwards plane of the body, because the body is split into these three planes of movement: front to back, side to side, and then transverse, which is rotational. And most injuries actually take place in the transverse and the frontal side to side planes. But most powerlifting and most strength events are developed in the sagittal plane, the plane that you don't need when it comes to stability and function. And so martial arts isn't limited by that. You move in all planes, whether it's a spinning kick or a side kick, or you move in all planes of movement. So even from a functional point of view, understanding this now from my biomechanical training, even from a functional point of view, martial arts is beautiful. You have to be powerful, you have to be strong, you have to be disciplined, you have to be flexible. All of these parameters, and similar to gymnastics, all of these parameters are met. And so that was, my first journey into self-mastery. And then obviously I moved into meditation and esoteric stuff afterwards, which we can probably touch on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's so beautiful, your mindset towards it and how you view it, because you're absolutely right. Self mastery is huge, and I feel like that's something that so many of us lose sight of.
Yeah.
We get so caught up in the day-to-day grind of just, going to the job, providing a living, and then going to sleep so that way we can get ready to do it again. You kind of lose sight of that growth aspect of life, learning new things, growing in different areas, finding things that you're weak at, and wanting to get better. That self mastery, that's a lifelong journey that it literally never has to end. As long as you have breath in your lungs, you can continue to grow in every aspect that you see fit. And so many of us just we forget that as a kid. When we're kids, we're so
Yeah.
imaginative and creative, and then at some point or another, that weight of responsibility falls onto us, and we just kind of forget about all of those other aspects, right?
Yeah, that's so true, and it speaks to a lot of the things that I talk about with the people I work with. As you said, when you're a child, there is no limitation. The problem is the programming that a child starts to receive, because all children, speaking to what you already know, all children enter this world with no limitation, but they're taught limitation. They're taught programming. They're taught to be vain. They're taught to be insecure. It's just like, the whole saying about racism. No one's born racist, but they get taught it. No one's, born sexist, but they get taught it. And so,
Right.
to your point, there are programs that start to get instilled, and those programs create limitations and doubt. And that's when humans become adults. And the adult is almost like the limitation, whereas a child is the unlimitation. And so, to your point, one of the things we need to do is, as the Dalai Lama said, become a child again. Because as a child, there is no fear. And that means you would walk into a room not worrying if people thought you were good enough. You wouldn't seek validation. A child doesn't seek validation. They're just in the moment. They don't care if they fart or if they, sneeze or cough or cry in a public room. They have no remorse. They are totally unrelated and purely in the moment. That is the pure essence. No doubt, no fear, no worry, no anxiety, no judgment, just being. And that is the state of bliss.
So well put. I love that. So one of the things that you had listed in your bio was an alchemist.
Yeah.
What does being an alchemist mean for you?
Yeah, I'm glad you phrase it that way because, again, words are loaded and they can have interpretation. So for me, what most people understand about alchemy is transformation. And so for me, the word trans, like transmission in the car, just means to move from one state of
Mm,
being to another state of being. So when I look at alchemy, I look at it from the point of view that most people in the Western world, and I always say the Western world because that's where the programs are really fixed. When in
yeah,
the
right.
Western world, most people are in the doing stage. How are you? Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's your job? And it's always about the doing, the task, the outcome.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, more and more and more, the Groundhog Day, and
Right, right.
yeah, and for me, alchemy is for me the ability to transform that state of being into, sorry, that state of doing into a state of being. And I always say to people in life, what we should seek is be, do, have. Most people are the inverse of that, and I'll explain be, do, have. And be is when you are fully present, that means you love yourself and you are totally in the moment like a child. And the child in the moment is
Yep.
playing. And if you don't play that child in an hour, they'll forget that they played with you an hour ago because they're in the moment. So,
Right.
child is in the being all the time. They have to be entertained right now, not an hour ago, right now, because they're only in this moment. And that's being, and that's how we really should be. So, from a place of being and fully immersed in each moment and taking each moment as the joy and the celebration, from that place, then we can do. Only from the place of being should we do. And the doing is the action from the being. So, if you can be fully present and do from a place of presence, then the have shows up. The have is what you acquire, the wealth, the fame, the adoration. That shows up, it should show up from a place of being first, because then you're fully present and you're fully aligned to what you are actually doing. And most people that are successful are unfulfilled because they haven't reached the being stage. They've only at the doing stage, accumulation of wealth. Or does someone with money want more money? They're never appreciative. They're never in the being state. And so the inverse of that, in terms of alchemy, the inverse of that is where most of the Western world is, which is doing, and then only from doing can you have. And only when you have everything you've ever wanted, then maybe you can be and celebrate and be present. That leaves most people successful and unfulfilled. And even, in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, he spoke about all these millionaires and billionaires that were successful yet unfulfilled. And you can't take it to the
Right.
grave. You can't take it beyond there. So live the life of fulfillment by being first. And that's what alchemy is.
Oof. I absolutely love that. You're so right. We're in that constant chase, that constant hunt for more, and once you get that, it's almost like you don't even know what to do with it. All right, I have the thing, but now what? All right, well now I got to go chase something else instead of being content with
Yeah.
where you're at now. I've I've made this reference so many times. The movie Kung Fu Panda, another
Oh,
martial arts reference.
mm,
Master Oogway, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. You have to live in that moment. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. That's why I go to it so often. You have to live in the moment. You have to be in the here and now. Yeah, be, then do from where you're currently at, and that's how you get the have. I
yeah,
love how you worded that. That's amazing.
yeah.
How did you first come across alchemy and realize that it was something that resonated with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's always that journey. So one of the things I say to people, there's an Arabic expression, the Sirat al-Mustaqim. It means the straight and narrow path. And obviously, one of the things I teach with regards to your question is growth isn't about what you learn. It's about what you learn to let go of. All the doubts, the fears, the apprehensions, the judgments, let go, let go. It's not learning more, it's letting go. Because we are, as children, born complete, but we install programs that create default patterns. So through my studies of martial arts that led me, because obviously, as you know, martial arts isn't just about the physicality, it's about the discipline, it's about the mind. And as I was getting into that, I started to wonder what else is there past the physical body. And so I started to study the mindset. I've read over 1,000 books, just reading, reading, reading. And then eventually I happened to, this is strange, but I used to be a rapper back in the day as well. And I
Nice.
was at a recording studio, and this guy came in and he started to talk to us about the mind and spirituality and stuff. And so through him, we went to a meeting on spirituality, esoteric sciences, and learned a lot about ancient Egyptian and Sumerian and Akkadian systems and practices. And that's kind of how I got
Mm.
into this invitation from this man. And then I was in a ancient mystery school for 10 years, just studying in America and different parts of the world. And that kind of led me on the path of alchemy, just learning more. And we would be meditating, we'd be fasting, we'd fast for like a year. Not non-stop for a year, I mean, every single day we would do what
Yeah.
people call Ramadan, the Muslim
Yep.
fast. We would do that for like
Yep.
a year, not 30 days. So we would go into these
Wow.
purge events of just purging specific things out of our body, and then I studied with this. I've studied a lot. I've studied with a lot of different masters, and then my one of my other teachers, a man called Paul Chek, he's like a world-renowned functional medicine, functional movement specialist. He's rehabilitated the top people in the world, and I've studied with him for like 20 years in kinesiology and in advanced nutrition and stuff like that as well. So I learned about alchemy through him. So in short, I've had probably 14, 15 different mentors over the years, and I've just learned
Mm.
from them. And then I developed my own system based on all of the information that I've learned from them. And from that, I felt that this all was about transformation and change, and then leadership.
Mm.
And as you were rightly saying at the start, people get stuck. And I always say, if you can't, don't try to lead others, lead yourself. And by leading yourself, you'll lead others. And so that's why leadership for me is key. It's about leading yourself. And part of leadership is sticking to your values. Do you have values? What are your values? And most people don't. They have unconscious values, but not really conscious. They can't articulate. So if you can't define happiness, you can't find it. And so you have to define it. And the
Mm.
way you define that is, first of all, building your own value system. What do you, and so for me, like for your audience listening, if they wanted to kind of do this as a template for themselves, and the easy way of doing it is write down 10 things in three categories that you think are important to you. Not what your manager says, or your sister, or your girlfriend, or what you think are important. And those three categories are lifestyle. And I'll give you some examples of lifestyle. So lifestyle might be my core value is I wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning. Not without judgment. Someone say,
Mhm.
oh, maybe 5 o'clock club. It's just for you. What do you want? So 5
Right.
a.m., 6, whatever, 7 a.m. is my core value is to wake up at 7. My core value is to go to bed at 11 p.m. My core value is I don't work on
Mhm.
weekends, and so on. You build this lifestyle value. My core value is to eat clean food. My core value is to move my body. And that's the vague part, but then you become very specific. So you start with the vague. What are the things that you think are important to you, such as my core value is to exercise? Okay, cool. That's vague. Now, what's the vivid aspect to that? I think exercising 3 times a week for half an hour is right for me. Cool. Now you've got a specific guideline for yourself. And so you build
Mm.
all of these things out in lifestyle. Then you move on to relationships. And relationships is a three-stage process, because you've got the relationships that you have with your friends, the relationships you have with your family, and then relationship you have with a spouse. And then you define those. Now,
Mhm.
the spouse one is preferences. What are your preferences? She's tall, short, funny, humorous, intelligent, your personal preferences. With your friends, find people that are inspiring to you, not people that hold you back. And that's obvious for most people. But find out why. Why are these people inspiring to you? Because they're devoted, they're disciplined, whatever it is, and write that down as character traits of your friends. And then family, you
Mm.
can't pick your family, but the core value around family is how much time do you need to spend around them? Like one of my values, and people might say, oh, this is silly, but again, you can't judge. Well, you can, but you shouldn't. Like my mum's always having a go at me. Why? When are you gonna call me? And I'm so bad at getting back to her. So I had to put a core value. Got to call mum once a week, and I put it in my phone
Mm.
as a reminder. Oh, sugar, yeah, cool. Because again, life gets in the way. So how often do you need to contact these people? And it might even be my core value is not to spend time around certain people for too long in my family because they irritate me. It's no judgment. It's
Right.
up to you. And so that's the
Mhm.
your relationship values. And the final one is career values. And that could be, I don't start work before 10 a.m. You may say, well, right now, I haven't got that choice, but you still find out what your values are. What do you want to work towards? So it could be my ideal value at work is to never work before 10 a.m., never work after 6 p.m., never work on weekends, never travel more than an hour to work. My core value is to never travel more than an hour to work, or 10 miles to work, or to never work in an office, or never work for a man, or never work for a woman without judgment. What are your core values around your career? And it could be, I don't want to work for less than a certain amount of money. And then once people build that out, that's their template. Am I living to my values? Not what's suggested to me, my values. And that helps to course correct you to find your own happiness, because now you've defined happiness for yourself. Your goal is to live towards it.
Man, that so much of what you said just resonates with me, and I know it's going to resonate with a lot of people. We just get so caught up in that whole everyday grind, doing something for somebody else, and we lose sight of ourselves and what's important to us. Like you said, I feel like that's such a good exercise that so many people would benefit from. Really take the time to self-assess who you are, what matters to you, and what you want your life to look like to a certain degree. Obviously there's going to be a lot of factors that come into play that you can't change, but we have a lot more control than we give ourselves credit for. And we allow others to have more control than they deserve, than they should. And then that in turn shapes and forms our lives in the way that it's set up to where, yeah, a lot of people are just living in a certain level of misery in a lot of ways. And if you are able to take that time, really dive in to what matters to you, those core values, like you said, and then start kind of filtering through those things that don't really matter to you, that shouldn't matter to you, the things that don't feed your soul, the things that don't make you happy. And I would say if it's not feeding your soul, then it's taking it from you. So if you have all of these different aspects of life that are taking away your essence of who you are, after a certain extended period of time, you don't even know who you are anymore. And then you've lived your entire life for somebody else, for something else that really doesn't even matter to you. And I remember seeing this video a while ago that was saying, it was like an interview segment compilation type thing of all these older people. And they were asked, if you could go back to your life, what would you change? And it was like 90% of what was said was not working for somebody else, not doing this for somebody else, not doing that for somebody else. It was so many things that, like, I wish I did more things for me. I wish I did this for me. I wish I did that for me, being a little vague, but that's pretty much exactly what they said was, not living life on somebody else's terms.
Yeah.
Do the things that matter most to me. And a lot of those things had to do with family, had to do with friends, had to do with things for themselves. I wish I loved fill in
Yeah.
the blank when I was a kid, and then I stopped doing it when I got older. I wish I would have spent more time doing that thing. And, that's another reason, contributing factor to this podcast was giving that platform for people to kind of assess themselves in that to that degree, release the things that they have going on, get rid of that built up tension that we have inside about that comes from living life through others. And then once you say it out loud, once you start that thinking process, it's hard to close that door again. It's hard to ignore that aspect. Now that I talk about it, I do want to do X, Y, and Z. I don't want to do A, B, and C. So what can I do to start living life to that degree? I love everything that you just said about it and the exercise that you provided. I hope that people, I myself definitely want to take advantage or do that as well and really go over a few more things. I like to think that I spend a decent amount of time thinking about it, but am I taking action towards it? Am I actually physically writing it down? Because then you're taking that thing that was just kind of going through your head that can sometimes just disappear. Now you've given life to it. Now you've written it down. It's something that you can see, something that you can reference back to, something that you can even adjust as time goes on. But it's something real now. You're going to spend more time thinking about it. It's going to hit a different frequency when it's something that you actually wrote down and you can now look at and start living life towards that as opposed to just letting it be a passing thought.
Yeah.
I love I love everything about how you just worded that.
Yeah, so I love what you said as well. So I want to just latch on to something you said just to again support this. So, most people don't change. What they do is they rearrange their preferences, and that's just how people live. But, to add what you'll do, it's saying as well is most people outsource their power, they pedestal and they outsource their power to other people. And that's why there's that well known saying, the helping hand you're looking for is at the end of your own arm. We keep looking outside of ourselves for something which is already within us. And again, the saying, if you don't go within, you go without. It's all with you. Everything starts with you. Yeah. So, one of the things I was just going to say to tie into that as well is when the understanding of the hand and rhythmic movements, it's more important. If you study billionaires and millionaires, they write things down in notepads for a reason. And it's not typed, it's written. And the handwriting, it's more physiological because your body moves more when you write versus when you type. When you type, it's just finger inflections. When you write, it's more somatic. And because the soma is the body, as you said, when you think it, it exists only in the mind, but when you write it, it's physical now, it's tangible, it's in the physical 3D reality. And so once you write it, you've brought it from the mind onto the manuscript, and so now it exists. That starts to help the action. Then the next thing you can do to add to that is when you're aware of something that you're not happy with and you've written it out, the next thing you want to do is move it from the body because trauma is held in the tissues and the cells of our body. That's why there's a famous book called The Body Keeps the Score, not the mind. The mind holds the information, the body holds the trauma. And so you have to physically move the information. So once you've written it out and you've seen what you're happy with and the things that you might not be happy with, just get up and shake. And you see animals do this all the time. There's a book called Why Zebras Get Ulcers, or sorry, when Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And in that book, they basically talk about how when animals are in the wild, and obviously it's a dog eat dog well kind of in the wild, and let's say a hyena is about to get attacked by a lion. Well, the hyena runs for its life. The lion stalks it, but if the hyena survives, it only lasted 5 minutes, and then what they do is they shake their whole body. And when they shake their body, what they're doing is they're dissipating that stress surge that was in the tissues and they clear it. So now they no longer hold on to trauma. And all animals in the wild do that. And so being aware of something that you don't like is conscious, but you have to remove it physically. So get up and shake your body. Even things like gibberish, like it sounds straight, stuff like that is very good for the body because you're releasing the somatic, the cellular trauma. Like when you're anxious, you don't feel it in your head, you feel it in your body. You get an upset stomach or your shoulders hunch. It's physical. So
Right.
we have to clear the things that we don't like, write down the things that we want to work on, and then we'll, start to work towards healing, true healing.
That's probably where the origin of the saying "shake it off" comes from, right? It is literally shaking off all of that built up tension and stress. Oh man, I love that. That's so big. So you're you're on this martial arts journey. You come across alchemy. You start. I love that you were saying that you're studying under all these different masters and influences and mentors, and you're picking the things that work for you, and you're applying them to your life, adopting them into your ways. And so you start living this kind of holistic life, right? What what define holistic means to you, and what led to you wanting to coach living a holistic life?
Right. So um, the word holistic, so many people throw that in, just like organic. Everything's organic now. They throw it in because it's a buzzword. So as an example, the term holistic dentist doesn't make sense when you understand what the word holistic really means, or a holistic acupuncturist. You can't be holistic acupuncturist because by definition, the word holistic means whole body health. Everything, unless you're doing all facets of living, you're not holistic. You can be functional or alternative, but you can't be holistic. You can't be a holistic dentist
Mm.
unless you're a dentist that teaches people nutrition and teaches people posture and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
It's
not
the
wrong.
whole thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So, holistic is like holism. It just means whole health, every aspect of health. So, normally there are these like pillars that are fundamental when it comes to health, and it's sleep, hydration, nutrition, movement. And these are, some of the key factors, and rest are as well as one of them. And these are the foundational principles. And
Hmm.
if you do all of them, then you are in, whole health. You're applying all principles because if you like not having to go at bodybuilders so much, but a lot of people look at bodybuilders like an example of true fitness and strength. And most bodybuilders aren't fit, but they're very, very strong. And all you have to do is watch a bodybuilder try and run a marathon, you'll realize they're not fit. They just can't do it.
Right.
And so there's a lot of very fit, sick people on the planet giving people advice, but that's not holistic. That is just strength. So if you honor your body and you understand that your body is the antenna that carries the soul through this lifetime, you would treat it differently. So I often say to people, you can go to the gym because you hate your body, or go to the gym because you love your body. Both get you to the gym, but complete
Mm.
intentions. So
Ooh.
yeah, honor the body, for what it is. And so a lot of that means eat well, move your body, sleep, because that's underrated. The sleep is free, it's underrated. That's the main way your body heals. And then, make sure you stretch, you move, treat it, like a vessel, and it will sustain you throughout the whole lifetime. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's big. I've referenced it often, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Andrew Huberman. He talks about those core
Right.
five pillars for physical and mental health. Being sleep, sunlight, especially first thing in the morning, movement, nutrition, and then social connection as well. Emphasizing their foundational role and how essential they are. And again, those simple aspects of life that we kind of overlook or take advantage of. I don't know how many people I've met over the years. They're like, oh, I can function off of 4 hours of sleep. It's like, yeah, but are you functioning at your best
Yeah.
capabilities when you do that? I'm like, no. Are you able to survive? Yeah, but are you performing to your best ability off of 4 or 5 hours of sleep, 3 hours, or whatever the case is? It's like, no, you're not.
Mm.
It's essential to, yeah, move your body, get the right amount of sleep, eat nutrition, eat the right things. Especially that Western diet. Yeah, it's so easy to get just horrible, disgusting processed foods that you put into your body. And does it satisfy your hunger? I guess, but is it really giving your body what it needs to thrive and be the best? It's that same concept of, or yeah, you can function off of 5 hours of sleep, but you're better if you get that 8 hours. Yeah, you're satisfying your hunger, but you're better if you get something that's actually good for your body that it actually needs, as opposed to something that was processed in a factory and didn't even exist 100 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're to
So
your
that
point.
that that's huge.
Yeah, to your point, your ego wants flavor, your organs want nutrition. It's completely different.
Mm.
Yeah. So the other thing is as well is, as you said, quiet is so important and happiness is so important. And one of the ways you build happiness is create values. And in the quiet, obviously, this world is so distorted. There's so much noise constantly that you need quiet to find yourself. You can't find yourself without quiet. And otherwise, you're constantly seeking or outsourcing your ability to connect to self through distraction. And that's how some people get through life. And again, it's a choice. No one on this planet is more powerful, more important than anyone else. The difference is the choices that we make that define us. And that is, the
Mm.
most important thing.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, becoming a transformational coach, what do you find is some of the most rewarding aspects of that job?
Yeah, so this sounds so cliche, right? It's witnessing other people grow is the
Hmm.
most important thing. People coming to me that, and I don't. No one's broken, like what Tony Robbins says. No one's broken. It's just they're just disconnected from who they are, and most of the time. everyone knows what they should do. Like they ask for advice that they already know. Always.
Hmm.
They just need someone. It's like one of my coaches said, if you don't pay, you don't participate.
Right, right.
So they need to pay someone to tell them what they already know. So they say, right, I paid for it. I'm going to do it now. It's someone to,
Right.
so, and so because of that, I get people that come to me that aren't like sick or anything per se most of the time, but they just want to find the next level of themselves or find themselves. And so the greatest joy I get is helping people really become who they were born to be, getting rid of all the dogmas and the distortions and really to find themselves. And that's why I call it the transformational stages. Leadership is, lead yourself, and then transformation is not so much creating goals, but creating identity shifts. Because once you shift your
Mm.
identity, that's when you change. And so most people, in the Western world again, they create goals and they learn new things, but they don't change because change isn't about what you know, it's about who you become. And who you become is based on your
Mm.
identity. So it's about an identity shift, not a goal.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, we get so comfortable in living that kind of life of misery because it's what we know. It's something that slowly happened over time, and transformation is almost in an immediate removal from that comfort, and that's uncomfortable. And I reference it all the time. It sounds so silly, but that's why they call it growing pains because
Yes.
it's going to hurt a little bit. It's gonna be uncomfortable. You're going to be unsure of what you're doing. And I fall victim to it all the time too. I get used to my way of going about things, and that's why I love martial arts so much. I just started taking Kenpo karate maybe 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, and I was nervous getting into it. Like I said, I did kickboxing, a little bit of jujitsu, boxing, and stuff like that when I was younger, and then I went so long without doing anything different, doing anything new, and so I was a little bit of anxiety built up, like, oh, what's this new thing? I'm gonna look stupid in front of all these people. And as soon as I got into it, again, you start learning new things. You find out what you're capable of. You find out what you're not very good at, and then you can start learning new techniques, new new forms and stuff that help you get to where it is that you're looking to get to, and then you start surprising yourself with what you're capable of. I didn't even know that I was able to do that, and now I'm doing it. Like you said before, what else can I do? The only way that you can answer that question is by attaching action to those thoughts and not getting so caught up in the what ifs. One of my favorite one of my favorite things that I now say, and we've talked about this on here before, is switching from the what if to the now I know. Doing something, and now you know what it takes, or now you know what you need to do. Now you know that you need help, or now you know what you're capable of, or whatever the case is. Just not living a life of fear, trying new things, finding out what it is that you're capable of, and learning new ways of going about the things that you normally go about or that you've never gone about. And that's where that true growth comes from. It comes from action. It doesn't come from those thought waves. It doesn't come from the living of life of fear, because you'll never grow. You have to put yourself out there and challenge yourself in different ways. And again, that's where true growth comes from, right?
Yeah. This reminds me of a saying, a basketball phrase, you miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, with that being the most rewarding aspect of it, what do you find is the most challenging aspect of being a holistic and transformational coach?
The most challenging thing is people getting in their own way. They create the blocks that they're trying to change. So they're playing a game with themselves,
Hmm.
they can't win. So that leads into something that I always coach as one of my lessons with them, which is sabotage. And this is interesting because most people's perception of what sabotage is 100% incorrect. So basically, most people think that they sabotage themselves, and that's not true. No one actually sabotages themselves. What happens, yeah, I know it's surprising, but what happens is your nervous system is wired to keep you safe. So there's a
Mm.
saying, I'm going to preface this with this saying: the mind's primary vehicle of expression is the nervous system. The mind's primary vehicle of expression is the nervous system. So what that basically means is the mind gets its awareness of safety from the body, not from the mind. Then it reacts to the body. So if you, no one says, I think's unsafe, I feel unsafe.
Mm.
So it's what you feel, and then the mind interprets the feeling and determines if you're safe or not. So it's the body that tells you. It's the body that keeps the score. It's the body that programs the mind, not the other way around. The nervous system tells you.
Mm.
And so because of that, most people, their nervous system wires them to keep them safe. So when if someone's stuck, right? Let's say someone's at a place. Let's just use finance because it's an easy, quantifiable thing. So someone wants to get to that legendary 10K a month, and they're at 5K right now. They're upset that they're at 5K. The nervous system is familiar with who they are at 5K, how they think, how they walk, how they talk, how they act, the environment they're in. So because then their nervous system is aware of that as a normal reality, that's the default. That's what's comfortable. And so the nervous system is safe in the in the anger and the frustration. It's familiar. So now that person tries to grow to get to that stage of becoming 10K a month. And so they have to change certain things. The nervous system is unfamiliar with this new version of you. And so what it does is it generates a sabotage pattern in your field. Your field is the energetic imprint of you. And so it's in your
Mm.
field like ones and zeros. It's a code in your field. And it does that, it generates that because it's trying to protect you from the unknown. And so it creates a sabotage pattern so that you default back to who you were before the trying to change. So what really happens is, in order for somebody to change, they have to go through a death, a circuitry stress, a mental death of the old self before they can get to
Mm.
the new self. That death point is a sabotage. So they may try to get to 7 or 8K or 10K, and then their nervous system starts to fry, and then they create the sabotage pattern, saying, no, 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 that's too hard. If you do that, and it creates all these reasons why you shouldn't do it to revert you to type. And that's why most people don't change, because the sabotage is the challenge that if you surmount, you transition into the next level. But most people won't go through the fire, the growing pain, as you mentioned. The pain is the unfamiliar, and they don't change. So the way you navigate around that is you have to start visualizing the next person, the next layer of you. So you visualize how you act, walk, talk, dress, environments that you're in at 10K before you even attempt 10K, so that your nervous system becomes familiar with what it feels like to be this new person. It's called the vision beyond the vision, such as when people say, dress for the
Mm.
job that you want, not the one that you have. So
Mhm.
you build that psychically and then somatically into the body through feeling. Like you sit there, you visualize, this is my life at 10K. And you feel the joy, the gratitude, and all of those things, so that the nervous system imprints that as your new you. And so that when you stretch
Mm.
to it, your nervous system is familiar and it never stops you from becoming, because now you're moving into what's known rather than the unknown. So sabotage just comes in because your body doesn't know that you are going to be safe at that next level.
Right. Oh, man, that is huge. I say it so many times in reference to other things. I've said it to my wife so many times that your feelings are never wrong. It's your mindset that needs to be adjusted towards something. Your feeling is a natural reaction to what it is that yeah, your mind has deemed this is the situation at hand, so you're going to have a natural reaction to that. But yeah, the same thing applies to yourself and transforming into that new thing. You're going to feel unsafe with this change because of your mind hasn't adjusted to
Yeah.
what do I want my new self to be? How do I want to dress? How do I want to act? How do I want to feel? I saw this thing not too long ago that was talking about this exercise of writing down how it is to have already received whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, and write down how you felt as you received it, how you feel going forward now that you have this thing, say it's 10K a month or whatever. I remember when I got my first 10K, and how I felt in response to that, and your mind will start kind of connecting those dots of how to get to that point. I'm kind of botching it a little bit, but it was a really cool exercise that I wanted to start implying with my own routine and start that visualization process of what it is that I'm looking to achieve and how I felt after I received that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good exercise to really open your mind up in that way, right? And start thinking forward as opposed to looking back and thinking in that way.
Yeah, yeah. So one last thing I was going to say before we move on, just to add to what you said, this is what elite
Yeah.
athletes, elite athletes, they go into an event, they visualize the event before the event, and then they act it. So yeah, exactly.
I have heard about that. Yeah, yeah. I'm a big, as I said, I'm a big combat sports enthusiast, and I love the UFC.
Oh my gosh, so
Again,
do I.
martial arts. I'm obsessed.
Yeah,
It's crazy. But one of the champions out there right now, Ilya
Ilya
Taporia,
Taporia.
he had that big fight with Charles Oliveira, and he actually
Celebrated.
partied in celebration the night before.
Yeah,
And at the time, I was like, "This guy's crazy." That's Duke Bronx that he's fighting. He's got his hands full, and lo and behold, he came out with flying colors, and it was one of those things. It kind of sparked that thought in me. There had to have been something to that. There had to have been something to his mind already accepting that he won, and then fate be told, he went out there and he achieved it. He created that pathway mentally, emotionally, and spiritually before the action even took place. And I think that's huge. I think that's something that it really put it on my radar of that of being able to do that. And again, there's got to be something to it. So I'm definitely gonna look into that and check that out.
he
Before we
also
wrap things up, I know that. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say he also did that with Alex Volkanovski. He actually wrote on his Twitter page, "World champion" before he fought him.
That's right. That's right. He did put. That's right. He did do that. See, so there's something to that, and I love that, and I think that's an extreme, but I think if we do more things like that with our lives, again, it creates that neurological pathway
Yeah,
of being able to achieve that as opposed to that what if. And thinking about all the things that could even go wrong, you're focusing on what's going to go right, and when what you put out into the universe is what you'll receive back, right, tenfold, as they say.
yeah, definitely.
That's big. So one of the things that we talked about, that you had mentioned to me before, was soul aligned leadership, and I just wanted you to touch base on that and explain a little bit of that to me.
Yeah, so so many people today are in leadership roles that are very yang. It's the old system, and yang is the same thing, doing and pushing. And if I can't find a way, I'll make one. And so most of the time, you can create success, but at what cost? The cost to your relationships, the cost to your soul, the cost to your sanity, the cost to your fulfillment, the cost to your values. Because most people in the Western world, they create that success as a leader through force and effort. But we're in a new paradigm now where we're starting to understand that to have it all, which can be done, is about surrender. And surrender is softening, it's going into the yin, the feminine, the restorative. And that means working from your soul. So I have this process where I talk to people about vision, feel, and infrastructure. And that's the way that if you do it properly, that you build empires when you do it this way. Because vision is what we've spoken about already, clear, concise, visualize what you want your life to be, the alignment of your soul into action. Feel is when you have the vision, and it can be very, analytical, such as over the next 5 years, I want to do X, Y, and Z. I want to grow this business. I want to start a hedge fund. I want to support small companies, whatever it is. And you have those visions very clear, but does it align with your soul? Are you doing it from soul, or is it just something that makes sense because it makes money? And if that's the case, you'll never be fulfilled. So find the thing that you want to do, and that's the soul. Then does it align? That's the heart. And the heart is 5,000 times more powerful than the brain. That's been proven through science. So if it aligns and it feels right, and you get this full body yes, that's aligned, and then lead from that place. So that's vision, feel, and infrastructure. Infrastructure is set up, the systems, the operations, the practices necessary, but start with the vision, then feel it because it's aligned as the soul, and then build the infrastructure rather than build the infrastructure based on the marketplace or something. It has to align first. That's vision, field, infrastructure. That's a soul aligned leader.
That's beautiful. Man, I cannot thank you enough for coming on here. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing just some of your knowledge, insight, and wisdom. I have so much that I'm going to go back and review on this because it really expanded my mind in so many ways. And maybe, hopefully, I can get you back on someday. I know you're a busy man and you got some stuff that you got to run to. So before we get off, if you could let people know about your website and your social media handles so they can find you and start paying attention to the work that you're doing.
Yeah, one thing that I really want people to take away from this, as you said, is just there is no limitation. The limit is you build your core values and move forward. But in terms of connecting with me, it's really about collaboration and community. So the only thing I really want to push is and I'll send. Can I send you the link so you can share it? My Telegram.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So my Solar Line Leaders Telegram group, and it's just a community of like-minded people that are sharing their pain, their suffering, their challenges, their goals and their dreams, their identity shifts. And it's a free Telegram group because my goal is to help people build a community of trust, men, women, sharing with each other to grow. And that's what I really want to share. So I'll
That's
say,
beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Send it to me. I'll post it so that way people can get on there and yeah, start opening up and sharing and pun intended, releasing
yeah,
what they have going on to really build that community, the community of healing, as I like to call it. Again, Warren, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it, and I'm so excited about this connection that we have together. And again, I hope that we're able to do this again sometime.
definitely.
All right. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.